Hello everyone, this is Brittany Lewis. I'm a graphic designer and illustrator, and Sundays is the day that I work on my dream project, the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. So this Sunday is no exception to that. We're going to be here working on the Five of Swords. I had to make sure that I was looking at the right card. We're going to be working on the Five of Swords for today, but before we get into it, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you would like to help me out or support me in any way, shape, or form, the quickest, easiest, and freest way to do that is to hit the like button, especially if you like live creation videos and like to learn more about the art process in this project. Now, if you have a project that you think I would be a great fit for, there are going to be some links for all of that, as well as my shop down in the description, and that's where you can catch me. So I hope you guys are doing well. Hey, 10 lady, hey, draw sketchbook, I'm happy to see y'all. I wasn't really sure today if I was going to stream because I had some brunch with an old friend I hadn't seen in a long time, and just been kind of getting throughout the day and preparing for the week. But of course, I always tell you guys to make time and room for the things that you want to do and the things that you want to accomplish. And I kind of have to hold myself sometimes accountable and to that same standard, even though sometimes I don't feel like it. You know what I mean? Sometimes you still have to continue to move forward and do the things that you have to do, even if it's just a little bit at a time, even if it's just like, 30 minutes. So we may not be here for very long. However, let's get into this. So we're making some progress, and now this is moving a lot slower than some of the other cards that we worked on, but I do believe that we're making some pretty excellent progress, especially in the facial expressions. So one of the things that I am sort of surprised at myself is just how well the angles are. Maybe that's because I have some references and things like that to draw on. So for instance, this background character looks pretty cool. I think I work on this Wednesday, I believe, worked on this background character and adding details and things like that. So deciding when to pull back and when to render lots and lots of details has been something that I'm sort of focusing on. I think the further back in space this illustration goes, the less details or the less time I'll spend adding details to it. So for those of you who are new here and just joining us, again, this is the Five of Swords from the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. Now this card is all about winning at all costs, going too far, hurting feelings, you know what I mean, all of that, but also being an egomaniac of sorts. Hey Montreal, I'm so happy to see you. So this person is someone who is in battle and they're in a fight and they're winning at all costs. Now again, this illustration is modeled after a painting of the deity Kali. So Kali is in the painting in the reference panel. So this is modeled after Kali. Now the breakdown of this particular image is Kali holding the head as she's fought these demons representing ego, and she has her tongue sticking out, meaning that she's gone too far. I don't want our character in the Five of Swords to feel like she's gone too far. I really want to tap into that sort of primal, sort of feminine rage. Also, again, taking into consideration that swords have to do with the thoughts, have to do with ego, have to do with sort of the conscious, forward-thinking mind, things that are outwardly present. It also has a lot to do with movement and air, and in this case, violence, right? So that is sort of the premise of this illustration. And then our main character is modeled after the Igoji warriors, also named African Amazons or Black Amazons or something like that in course of history. These women fought the French. During the time of the Atlantic slave trade, they also were very active in the slave trade as a part of their history, and so they have a very interesting story, having women warriors and fighting the French, and also sort of being a little bit of a unexpected challenge for the French. So that is who we are modeling these characters after. So today I think what we'll do is go ahead and add some light and shadow to our main character, specifically in her costuming, because that's taking up the bulk of her body, and then we'll just kind of move around as we see fit. But yeah, I like it. It's coming together okay. I'll be real with you. I'm at a point in this project, and this happens to go through like ebbs and flows. I'm not necessarily tired of working on it. I don't ever get tired of it, but I am at a sort of, my creative mind wants to do other other things. So sometimes I have other projects and other sort of desires to explore, and sometimes that takes over sort of working on this particular project. So we're kind of balancing it out, finding balance, finding ways to be expressive in other modes of art, but also just making even a little bit of time for this project. So that's where we are. So I have not worked on this as much as I had in cards past, but we're back on it. Sundays is that day. I can't, even if it's only for 30 minutes, we'll sort of be here until we get it done. Now the last card for the set of fives that we have is the Five of Pentacles, and that will be sort of a bakery scene I'm seeing, or like a kid standing in front of like a window, and the pentacles would be represented by the different pastries. That's the idea that I'm playing with and floating with. And the only reason we have not began to work on that so that we can double down and do 2 at a time is just I hadn't figured out, I hadn't made a decision yet. So once I make that decision, then we'll move forward and continue to progress in the way. Slowly but surely we'll get there and progress as best we can moving forward. All right, so I'm going to work on the vest. Now I am working in Clip Studio Paint for those of you who are interested in learning and getting into digital art. I like Clip Studio Paint because it allows me to work in a fully fleshed out program. I'm working and drawing on a tablet. I'm using my stylus pen, so everything that you see happening on screen is happening in real time. So I know I meet a lot of you guys, or have met a lot of you guys recently at conventions and different things like that, and I know that some of you are interested in learning digital art and maybe not knowing where to start or what to do. And so this is just the program that I choose to use. There are going to be a myriad of options in it. Again, it depends on whether or not you're working on a mobile device or whether you are working on a desktop. I prefer the desktop. It's just a little more room for me. You know, my screen is much bigger. My screen is probably the size of a small I would say probably a small TV, right? My main computer screen and my drawing tablet are about the same size, and it just gives me a lot of room to play with. So from corner to corner, I have access to that on this particular screen. And again, I am working with a stylus pen, so every stroke that I make is hand drawn, right? It's just drawn on the computer. So last week we talked a little bit about some of the misunderstanding I think that digital art gets in terms of what it actually is and how it works, right? Because I think most people's, especially in the mainstream, most people's idea of digital art now, unfortunately, is AI. And so when you explain sometimes to people that you are a digital artist or that you're working digitally, their idea of that, or their sort of reference to that, is generative images, right? Generative AI. And so I like to be able to show y'all guys it's not that, right? So every line we draw, every sort of shadow that we make, we do this on our own. We take our time with it, and it definitely has the same sort of importance. It definitely has its own challenges and takes quite a bit of skill, just like your regular traditional mediums, right? And I will venture to say that most people that draw digitally also draw very well digitally, right? So that is also something that we have to sort of be very expressive about and open about as we talk about our processes in doing our artwork. So I have been actually tinkering with the idea. I think I mentioned you guys a while back that I had went to a workshop, and they were teaching us a lot about how to sort of write your artist statements and how to describe and articulate your artwork, and you know what it is that you do. I came across a lady who was breaking that down even further, mentioning about how to word your artist statement. So that is one of the challenges that I want to sort of make my way through. Artist statements and artist bios are two of the things that I get a little bit tangled up. Right? So oftentimes when I'm applying for like public arts projects, grants and things like that, they want to know both. They want your artist bio. Sometimes that involves a CV and also your resume, right? And they also are interested in your art summary, your artist statement, your artist summary. So for me, I was getting it tangled up where I would make my artist summary much more akin to a bio, where I went to school, how long I've been doing it, what, you know, my major medium is, and all of this. But I learned at that workshop that artist statements tend to be a little more flowery in terms of being more descriptive and sort of talking about the process and your whys and your hows and how to do that. And so that is something I've been kind of actively thinking about and trying to figure out a way to word it. Right? So word it in a way. Now, for someone like myself, I am what you consider a multidisciplinary artist. My main, of course, disciplines are graphic design and illustration. Graphic design in the sense that I am usually creating some sort of communication for someone, whether that is a logo design, most recently lots of book covers and interior book designs and children's book designs and all of that. But the whole purpose and premise of doing a graphic or being a graphic designer, or just the function of a graphic designer, is to create some sort of visual language for people to learn or be informed or be sold something, right? The other discipline, my main discipline, would be illustration, which is what we do here. And I also have other disciplines, right? So I paint portraits and I do other things. I have a little bit of web design skill. I designed my first website when I was like 12. I do maintain and have designed my own site. It is not something that I would advertise as a service, but it is a skill set that I have. So my challenge is figuring out the commonality of those disciplines, because there is a common thread, right? So most of the design projects and the clients that I work with in that realm tend to fit a certain sort of mold, right? And then the illustration projects tend to fit a certain theme, and so on and so forth. And so there is a commonality. It is just a matter of me sort of figuring out what that is and how I can explain it, weaving them all together. Right? So that was really, really interesting. Again, hearing the people at that particular artist workshop speak about how to do that and how to sort of incorporate all of the things that you do and explain it so that you can get those grant opportunities, so that you can sort of apply for exhibitions and things like that. It was really interesting. It's just something that I have to personally sit down with. Right? So they gave us some workbooks and things like that, and I've been to a gajillion workshops. I've been to all kinds of workshops and classes and things like that to sort of teach you and show you how to be a professional artist, specifically in the business sense, in the business space. But it is just something that I have struggled with, just trying to figure out how to explain it and things like that. But we'll get there. And as I learn it, I'll share with you guys and maybe give you some tips and tricks and things like that for how to express yourself and to sort of share what it is that you do and how you do it and why it's important, right? Why your particular perspective and expression is important and all of that. And move forward. So that's where I'm at, right? As well as creating some things. I do have a couple of creative ideas that, again, I want to explore. It's kind of pulling me away a little bit from the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, but I think it'll be worth it in the long run. I have a tendency to sort of look future-wise, so sort of looking past this particular project, because it is consuming so much of my time and energy and creative effort that once it's done, it's a matter of figuring out where to move and how to maneuver afterwards, right? So for me, even though we still have a couple more years on this, I'm thinking about that now and starting to make moves and set up systems for how to navigate that space now, kind of exploring different things. But as artists, we get these ideas and things like that, and man, I want to work on some of this stuff so bad. So it's just, again, finding that balance so that I can, do both. I can still do both. I can still sort of explore ideas without abandoning sort of the main mission and getting this done. So I hope y'all are having a great week this week. I really hope that you guys have done well, or sort of learned something new, met new people, and all of that this week. Hope y'all are doing all right. All right, so what I'm doing is I am pretty much following the guideline of this 3D model. Now, I got this 3D model on a website called PoseMy.art. It is an app. It is a free tool to create Pose My Art. I don't know who Pose My Art is specifically. It is something I came across randomly and kind of played with, and I was able to get a scene that I really, really liked. Now, of course, when we have these 3D models, there's quite a bit of tweaking you have to do so that your figures don't feel super stiff, so they don't feel like they're actual mannequins. For instance, in her shoulder, in the 3D model, her arm comes away from her shoulder a little bit further than it would naturally, right? So paying attention to my own body, how my arm lifts and my shoulder shifts as I raise my arm, kind of helps me to articulate that in my character that I'm trying to create. So that is something, but it did give me an opportunity to set up the lighting for this scene. So that helped out a whole lot, because anytime I work with the 3D models and Clip Studio Paint, I'm not really able to light the entire scene. I'm only able to light bits and pieces or one figure after the the other, and so I do my best to try to match the lighting, but it can be a little bit of a challenge. Now the workaround for that I have found is to learn Blender. Right now, Blender is a 3D modeling software, and you don't necessarily have to learn Blender from scratch. They do have assets that you can download, so if you're trying to pose models and things like that, you don't have to build a person from scratch. You can just purchase one or download one and then use and manipulate it as you move forward and set up your lighting scene. So that is something else I want to learn to do. Right, I want to be able to learn to do that. I think if I did, some of the painting ideas that I have in mind just for the acrylic paintings and things like that will come together a lot easier, and I may not have to do so much work on the back end of doing like actual photo shoots for references and stuff like that. So we're exploring a lot. It's been a lot of fun. I'm really glad to have this sort of uptick in creativity and momentum and just sort of upward motion as we create. So I hope that you guys are experiencing the same. Again, I know these last few years have been pretty tough on creatives, but I want to say this. I know that because there is such an influx of AI images out in the world, right? Sometimes I've seen a lot of people be extremely discouraged with learning how to draw or learning how to do digital art specifically, or different creative outlets, whether it's music, because it's taken over so many, or not taken over, it's sort of infiltrated so many different industries. I will say that if you are learning to do these things despite all of that, I say bravo to you, right? Because it's super easy to just kind of give up on your dream because there's an easier alternative, or there's some other alternative available. Just sort of taking that chance on yourself to learn a new skill, especially a new creative skill, is a brave thing to do, and I think that you'll succeed anyway. I've said this time and time again. I believe wholeheartedly that being someone who can actually create with the human experience, right, with your hands, with your voices if you're singing, with your mind if you're writing, all of those things, being the human behind the art is going to be a superpower in a very, very major way. And for those of us who are maybe sort of losing out on certain clients who are sort of shifting towards AI, I would challenge you to think that those aren't your clients anyway. Right, you know what I mean? So I know I mentioned some time ago that a lot of the clients who would typically hire me in the past, who had never worked with a graphic designer or an illustrator, are sort of going the way of AI. And I had gotten to a point where I just couldn't afford to take on as many of those clients anyway, right? So it just kind of helps, it is one of those things where people are either have strong opinions of it either way, right? So if that is the way that those people are going, let them go. There are always going to be people who are going to appreciate the things that you create. We're going to just enjoy the things that you create and be looking to learn more. So if you're in that sort of number where you're learning a new skill, bravo, right? Keep going, don't stop, because it is, of course, it's a lot easier to say, especially if you're new at it, right? If you're new at it, it can be difficult to say, why should I spend the time working on something if people can generate something similar in the blink of an eye? They can type in a sentence and it comes up. But again, it is going to be a superpower to be the human behind the creativity, right? To be able to show your process, even if it's not in a tutorial perspective, or in that kind of way. Just being able to be honest in your art and self-reflective in your art, even if it's fan art that you're drawing, right? Drawing and creating the things that you want to see is always going to win over the cheap and easy route. Right? It's an audience for everything. There's going to be an audience for that. There's going to be an audience for your own work as well. All right, so again, I'm just sort of making some adjustments to the light and shadow of our character. Now, all of this is going to change just slightly because I am going to do some bead work details to this particular vest. But before I do that, I want to set myself up for success so that I know where the values are. Values meaning from light to dark, right? So we're going to follow our 3D model as a guideline. Also, adding these shadows will make certain things stick forward and push certain things back, right? So we want to make sure that we add the appropriate amount of shadow and the appropriate amount of light where it goes. And then later on, I'll add details very similar to the outfits for our soldiers on the ground, and then we'll move forward from there. So none of this has to be perfect, right? That's something that, of course, I say a lot. I've really been implementing a lot, not putting too much pressure on myself in the arts. Painting is super easy to do because you allow yourself to sort of let the paintbrush sort of guide the motion of the painting, right? with digital art, because you can get so fine-tuned and you can undo your mistakes much easier and all of that. It can be a little bit challenging to sort of allow yourself to create right, and to allow yourself to make those happy accidents. But when you do, man, when you allow yourself to just be free in it, even on this computer screen, even as we are drawing on with the stylus and all of that, with controlled pen pressure and all of that, I feel like you really get some nice sort of happy accidents that you can, try to replicate a little bit later on. All right, so that looks good so far. What I might also do while I'm here is I might actually add some details to her skin. Now, I'm pretty sure I have a skin layer for her somewhere. There she is. Okay, I'm going to add a layer on top of this just in case I don't like what I do, right? And if I don't like what I do, then I don't have to have, I'm not super tied to it, and I don't have to redraw the baseline illustration, right? So again, I hope y'all are being creative. I hope that you guys are exploring new things as you move forward. There we go. And continue to do that despite what things look like on the outside, right? And in real life, you know what I mean? People are always going to find the value in what you do by hand. They're always going to be impressed by that as well. I find that to be true across the board. Anytime I go to those like conventions and things like that, I have art, again, that spans like 19 years worth of artwork. And the impression is, oh my goodness, did you create all of this, right? Now, sometimes it's sometimes depending on the tone of the question. Sometimes it's a little bit of a loaded question. But for the most part, people are very thoroughly impressed that something so voluminous, so much of it, right, has been handmade and hand drawn. So with the challenge with the graphic design challenge with the digital, it's just dealing with people's perception of what digital art is, and a lot of that comes from ignorance. So you just have to be a champion for yourself and be patient with people and show people grace. And just let them know, no, I drew that by hand, right? I drew it on my iPad, or I drew it on my pen display, or I drew it on my graphics tablet, or whatever it is that you're using. And don't be afraid or shy. You don't have to take it personally, right? Because again, I think a lot of that's just kind of rooted in ignorance. I think a lot of people just don't know, right? All right, so we're just, again, adding light and shadow. And I can adjust this later on. I don't really have to be super perfect. I'm just drawing from my reference, and I'm adding light and shadow here. So I'd love to know, what are some of the things that you guys want to accomplish? If you're artists, if you're not artists, you just want to try something new and do something new. I really am curious to know about what it is that you guys are working on. Now, if you would like to work together, I do a Much Chiller live stream on Wednesdays where we co-work together. If you guys are available for that. Typically, it's about, hey, Black Z2. Typically, it's about, it usually takes place at about 12:45 Central Standard Time. And we go for about an hour or so. But if you're wanting to work and maybe not wanting to have like the pressure of explaining, you just kind of want to create with somebody or be in a space of creatives, I would very much invite you guys to come and check us out on Wednesdays for Bring Your Own Project Live. I love those streams. I feel like those are really low pressure streams. You know what I mean? Oh, it's starting to storm, so we may not be here too long. But yeah, I feel like those are really low pressure streams. I find that being in an environment with other creative people is energizing, right? I feel like, I don't care what they be doing, if it's photography, if they're writing, if they're doing screenplays, if they're actors or spoken word people, whatever the case is, I feel like being around other creative people sort of, I don't know if it's like an electricity thing, you know what I mean, or energetic thing, but I always feel super inspired to do other things when I'm around other creatives, right? So going back to that workshop, now I was one of maybe 2 or 3 visual artists out of 25 people there, right? So there were 25 spaces. I was, again, 1 or 2 or 3 visual artists. Everyone else was spoken word artists. There were a lot of musicians. There were writers. There were actors. There were screenplay writers. There were all of these different photographers, all of these different creative people, and everyone had their own thing, right? So there were a couple of people who had a couple things in common, but for the most part, everyone sort of created in their own lane. Everyone sort of finding their own way, and we were all there to learn more how to be better as professionals, right? But when I left from there, I was super inspired, and I could see how I could move forward in my own creative practice and in my own creative business just by being around other creative people, right? Now, whether or not and I'm pretty outgoing when it comes to like certain social situations. So I was very much there because I wanted to learn and wanted to be better. But just sitting and listening to some of the experiences of other creatives, listening to some of the ideas of other creatives, listening to how they approach similar projects and problems and obstacles and challenges and things like that helped me to reframe how I think about certain things, right? And so I would love to create a community for that. I have been tinkering with the idea of doing a Patreon. I don't know if that's something you guys would be interested in or anything like that, but I would love to create something similar, right? So create an environment where we can all sort of just be there and be creative people together, right? And sort of learn and grow from each other and create a safe space. Because I think sometimes we get kind of overwhelmed and inundated with so much information and so many people's opinions. I would love to create a space where you just be, right? Just be a creative. Just, be whoever you are. Even if it's not a creative, just be in a space full of creatives and sort of get your ideas and bounce your ideas off of each other. And that I would love to do that. We had something similar when I worked with the guild. We actually was able to create, when I was the Southern Regional Rep, we had a event in Nashville that I helped organize. Actually, that I did organize. We had an event in Nashville that I organized, and we was there with the president. And it was a small event. I think maybe less than 10 people or so showed up. It wasn't very many of us. However, just sort of being there and just listening to, because I'm always a people watcher too, just listening to everyone sort of share their experiences and again the projects that they're working on, and just to see people in a space that maybe I ain't even think about, you know what I mean? Just being around other folks that are just doing it and succeeding in it was so enlightening. It was very, very much a nice time. So that is one of the organizations I would certainly suggest to people who are maybe into graphic design. Now, I know that they do also have information for illustrators. It's the guilds, graphic artist guilds, so a lot of it is graphic design heavy and graphic design centric. However, if you are in the place where you are trying to set up a business or learn sort of your rights as an artist, that is one of the best places that you can go. Them in the AIGA. Now, I don't know if the AIGA deals a lot with illustrators or not, but I know for sure the guild has information for them. As a matter of fact, I have both. Actually, I have all three. I have all three of my guild handbooks. And the reason that I go back and forth between all three is because sometimes the information is slightly different and you kind of want to have a perspective. So for instance, I believe this is number 13 and I bought this forever ago, right? This is their pricing and handbook guide number 13. I don't even remember what year that came out, but it's super helpful. This one is the one before last. So this is the pricing and ethical guidelines, and of course I have it tabbed up for all of the the information that I need. And then I have the newer one as well. So I keep these on hand. Now, I'm no longer the guild representative, the Southern representative for the Graphic Artists Guild, but it is a organization that I had the distinct pleasure of seeing how it works behind the scenes. And I know them folks, they do such a great job in advocating for creatives and sort of figuring out ways to reach creatives so that you guys can be the most, or so that we all can be the most successful, and sort of everything can be fair, and they're setting standards and all of that. I know them folks do the work because I was doing the work with them. Right? I was doing the work with them. I'm talking about setting up or trying to set up mentorships and all kinds of things that I was doing with the guild. So that is an organization though I do not work with anymore. I wholeheartedly believe in what they do, right? Because I know everybody there works so hard to provide resources and advocacy and all of that. They go to Congress. I'm talking about they do so much for creatives. So if you are looking for an organization that is already in existence, maybe you're a graphic designer, maybe you're an illustrator, that is one. Or even textile artists. I think in the book they have information for textile artists and comic book artists and people that do sort of magazines and all that. All the information is in their handbook for sure. But if you're just wanting to be in a space that already exists, that has creatives and things like that, they have free programming quite frequently. A lot of it is online. There's no pressure. I feel like they have I was gonna say Logo Olympics, but I believe that's with African American graphic designers organization. But I believe they have like show off and tell. We could show some of your work and sort of again meet other creatives. They have monthly sort of live streams. They have workshops. They have free workshops. If you're a member, all the workshops are free. Just go and watch them and get the information that you need. So it is one of those organizations that, again, if you want to be around someone business-wise that deal with the arts, that is one that I recommend personally, because I know for sure, because I was working. Right, they had me in that thing working and organizing and doing phone calls and Zoom meetings and all kinds of things, just to sort of bring things to life. And I know for sure the president works extremely hard. She does a wonderful job of making sure things are right, making sure people are treated fairly, making sure that the programming is right and all that. So that is one organization I know of for sure. There's one specifically for illustrators that I have heard of. I don't recall the name, but I don't have any direct experience with. And then I just recently found one here in the city. So just find yourselves a group of people. I would love to create that here, right? But until then, finding a group of like-minded creatives or creatives who are sort of going in the direction or sort of already in the direction that you would like to go, I think makes all the difference in the world. And it certainly sparks creativity. I know for sure in me, right? Now, I know as a freelancer or someone who owns their own creative business, I work a lot by myself aside from my clients. So again, being in those spaces where I am actively being inspired by other creatives, even outside of the field that I'm working in, makes a huge difference, right? It gives you motivation. It keeps you going. And it allows you to see where you could go and how you can apply the things that other creatives are doing to your own professional business, even if they're working in a different discipline. So again, learning how to articulate being a multidisciplinary artist, right? Because I always introduce myself to you guys as a graphic designer and illustrator, but that's where my main business is. But sort of embracing the fact that I am a multidisciplinary artist and finding a way to articulate that in my artist statements and finding a way to sort of lean into my triumphs and wins and all of those things for my artist bio is something that I didn't know I could do, or how to do it, or how to navigate it. I've written artist bios and artist statements and things like that, but after going through specific workshops and again being around other creatives, I could see where it could change, right? And also where it could take me, like why these things are important and how to best sort of utilize them moving forward. So I do have a dream. I'll say this one. I do want to do a solo exhibition one of these days. I have an idea for a series of paintings, or at least a series of images. It may be paintings and photography, I'm not really sure, but it'll be paintings for sure. A series of paintings, and I want to be able to show that one day. I know exactly where I want to start, right? I've already got the idea. The first one is going to be a self-portrait, and I ain't going to give too much away. We'll just sort of get there as we get there. So I'm approaching, of course, my 40th birthday. I'll be 40 next month. And for a long time, for the most part, every other year or so, I would do a self-portrait, and I have not done one in a long time. So the icon that I use all over social media is a self-portrait I did in 2015, and I think I've done one for the Cosmic Gateway Tarot. I represented myself as death in the form of Baron Samedi. I was just me, of course. And I used that one as a veve. So I believe that was 2022, I believe, 2021, 2022. That's the last time I've done a self-portrait, other than the marker one. I did do the marker one. But in terms of like doing a creative one, I hadn't done one in a while. So I was thinking about this idea for a painting, and before I even thought about it being a self-portrait, I thought it'd be pretty cool to do. And so I got to thinking, I was like, well, it kind of describes me a little bit. Maybe I should pose for it myself and just be the subject in this painting and let it be a self-portrait. And the more I thought about it, the more ideas for it came, and so we'll get there soon enough. I know I've been sort of making a list of all the creative stuff that I would like to do, especially video wise, because I want to show you guys how that goes. Now, I do have a video coming up which details a commission that I did, but I want to be talking over it, right? So to be like the old school time lapse videos, because that's what the client requested. But I would love to show you guys the whole creative process, right? So we go through it a little bit with the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, but in terms of like setting up paintings and sort of fleshing out ideas and how to move forward in that space, I would love to show you how I navigate that, right? In real time as I navigate it. So I got a new mic coming. this week. So when that new mic come, we might start that series off and let you guys sort of get an idea of how that works, both traditionally and digitally. Of course, I do show you guys a little bit for this project, but I want to show you how I implement digital art into my traditional art. Oftentimes I will plan things digitally because I'm sitting here at the computer. I don't have to bust out no, pencils and paper and all of that. I just draw it right here. I can get proportions better right here. It's easier for me to manipulate aspects of the image digitally as opposed to doing it traditionally. So I do often plan my paintings and things like that in Clip Studio, and then I move that onto my traditional canvases and stuff like that. So I want to show y'all all of that. Right? So be on the lookout for that. I am sort of organizing things. I've been, again, moving a little bit slower. I think sometimes too, the other thing that happens with me is sometimes you can have so many ideas that you get sort of analysis paralysis. I get that a lot. Right? And so you have so many things that you want to do and accomplish, and you don't know how to move forward, and then next thing you know, nothing's getting done. That's something that I have dealt with this week, I would say. So I've been a lot slower with sort of, just handling business in general. But talking it out loud, I think helps. And again, just sort of giving myself grace and taking that as a time to rest. Sometimes that is what is required, right? Sometimes we go through these obstacles, and sort of the thing that is happening as a result of the obstacle is what you need to experience. So if it is me not being able to move forward, to me, I take that as maybe I should rest this week, right? Maybe I should rest. Maybe I should make my list and things like that so that I can sort of organize my thoughts and all of the things that I would like to do. And then I can move forward from there, right? Sometimes we're out and about, and you could, for whatever reason, every red light, somebody's jumping in front of you, and it's kind of slowing down your progress. Sometimes that's for your own good, right? It's super inconvenient. It is super sort of annoying at times, but sometimes that's sort of those obstacles are set up in place to keep you safe. So that's kind of how I'm taking it and how I'm navigating it. Just not being stuck, because I wouldn't say I'm being stuck, but sometimes I get that analysis paralysis where so many different things I would like to try and do, and I don't know where to start. And I take that as, okay, let me slow down. Let me slow all the way down. Let me rest. Let me get myself together. Let me relax, and then we'll come back with it, right? So in the next couple weeks, we'll have that first time-lapse video. I also still have the vlog for what am I doing? The vlog for the museum piece that we did a couple weeks ago. It's been about a month, so about a month or so ago. We have the vlog for that. I was supposed to be getting footage from one of the people who was there doing the videography, but I didn't feel like going through the motions to do it. So we're going to use what I got and put that together so that you guys can kind of see the process of it. I have since picked that painting up, and that's been surreal too. So that experience, again, everything happened so fast that the idea of me being in a museum, like the magnitude of that didn't hit me until maybe like a week later. Right? So I had a real delayed reaction. I was just kind of going through it, sort of getting the painting done, sort of, enjoying the process and being super present in it. And then once I got done a week later, I was like, man, that's a big deal, right? And so since then, I've gone by there maybe one other time, and I saw it on the wall because I needed to get some footage of like all of the art on the wall. But I brought it home and I put it on my easel and just kind of been looking at it, and I'm like, golly, I did this in 2 weeks. Right? You know what I mean? Now, of course, the artist in me can kind of see the parts that I would do differently if I had more time or like different equipment. For instance, at the bottom of that painting, so the painting, just to describe it for those of you who may not have seen it before, the painting consists of a child in the middle, and then he's surrounded by his ancestors, right? My idea was at the bottom of that painting, rather than have the ancestors anchored to the painting, meaning their clothes going all the way down, I wanted the background to sort of bleed up into them, right? Now, again, I was on a tight deadline, so I didn't have a whole lot of time to think about how I was going to achieve this, right? I didn't have a whole lot of time to overthink it or like to overcomplicate overcomplicated for myself, which kind of worked in my favor. But the way that I was able to approach it was basically, as I was painting, like for instance, there was a domestic servant as one of the ancestors. So as I was painting the gray of her dress down, I just kind of stopped short of the bottom, and I didn't sort of fill in all of the space. Same with the soldier, I just kind of stopped short of the bottom. Now with him, because his pants were a lot darker, I was able to bleed that red up. But now that I'm looking at it, I was like, man, if I had an airbrush, I would just, brush it in. Right? So I do see some of the things that I would do differently, but overall I'm like, man, that's a good paint. You know what I mean? Not to like brag on myself or nothing like that. I was like, man, that's a good paint. I did real good. Also, the same with the commission that I just finished, which came on the tails of that, very similar in subject matter, because both of those were set up to sort of follow the theme as they commemorated the massacre of Fort Pillow. And so the commission that came behind that, I had a little bit more time to work on it. So I had about a month or so to work on it, and I had an actual photo reference to work from. So I had a photo reference, and then the way that image worked was there's a soldier at the bottom, and then in the clouds there's this battle scene. So it challenged me to do things that I don't typically do. Landscapes. All right, y'all know I've been talking about working and improving on landscapes for the absolute longest, and this sort of forced me to do that, right? Because that was part of how the illustration was set up and part of the design that we agreed upon. So I had to challenge myself to do that. Create grass, create the clouds in a way that I was satisfied with, right? Not even in a way that was convincing, just in a way that I was satisfied with. So that forced me to sort of expand my comfort zone a little bit as well. So all kinds of things have been shaking up and shaping up. And like I said, lots of forward momentum and upward momentum. So I'm super happy to have you guys along for the ride. But I'm slow about getting that out. So we're going to get that out, and I'll be able to show you guys some of that. Even if I'm not talking on it, you'll be able to see some of the process of putting those images together. So I'm excited about that, and I hope that you guys enjoy it when we bring it out. All right, so it's been about 40 minutes. We ain't gonna be here too long today. It's starting to storm too, so I don't know if you guys can hear the thunder, but it's cutting up outside. So before this computer shut down, the power and all, they go out, I want to stop it here. But whether you're watching this live or the replay, I thoroughly appreciate you guys for being here and stopping in, especially since this was the last minute. Normally I would set this up well ahead of time, but I wasn't really sure if I was gonna come in. I'm really glad that I did, and I'm super glad to have you guys in the chat. So shout out to TN Lady, shout out to You Draw Sketchbook and Montreal and Blake Zetsu. I'm super happy to see you guys in the chat. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you'll do me a huge favor and hit the like button, that helps me out so much, because I do have a goal of reaching 1,000 subscribers. I'm gonna do that one day. We're gonna get there. I would love to reach 1,000 subscribers, and so hitting the thumbs up helps push this out to more people, right? So people who might be interested in live creation videos, or if you think people will like it, right? Hit the like button, that helps a lot. If you're watching and have not yet subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. I do stream twice a week. Wednesdays for Bring Your Own Project, where we just listen to music and we co-create together, and it's just a very nice, soothing, creative space. I'm generally working on the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, but that is a stream that I set up for me to work on whatever, right? So sometimes it'll be Cosmic Gateways Tarot. Here in the future, it'll probably be something else, because I have a couple of other creative projects that I would like to share in that space. But I would love to have you there. I would love to see you in the chat. Love to interact with you there. And then again on Sundays for Paint With Me Live, where we talk about this. Now today we ain't talk too much about the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, but there are lots of live streams on this channel, as well as some other standalone videos that explore the symbolism of this project and some of my thought processes. And we'll continue this again on every Sunday. So if you'd like to learn more about this project, or just again like watching live creation videos, join me on Sundays. So without further ado, I hope you guys have a happy, creative, and prosperous week. Peace.